Hola, Barcelona. Hello. I'm Mark, and I spend my life trying to fix the future. You can read about some of my work in these books, but I'm here today as resident futurenaut at the Atlas of the Future. My life, and many of the people you'll see today, is dedicated to what I call future literacy. And by that I mean understanding the questions that the future is asking us, and then trying to create a culture that enables us to answer those questions in a way that makes the world more sustainable, equitable, humane, or just. And right now, the future is asking us some very difficult questions. Because let's be honest, everything is broken. Everything is broken. Today we face the evaporation of trust in institutions that govern society. Democracy is in retreat because we're still using a 19th century system to try and deal with the problems of the 21st. We have ever-widening wealth inequality that is now so ridiculous that 1% of the world's population own 50% of its wealth. Our healthcare systems are broken and expensive. Our food systems are dangerously unsustainable, leaving us with less than 100 harvests left unless we change our ways. And the food we grow, as much as 50% of it doesn't even reach the human stomach because we don't have enough fridges. The failing of our financial systems are extreme. It's a state of affairs probably best summed up by the New Yorker cartoon by Tom Toro, which says, yes, the planet got destroyed, but for a beautiful moment in time, we created a lot of value for shareholders. This perhaps explains why, on average, 85% of employees dislike their jobs, because they realize that what they're doing day to day is part of a blind system that leaves them with an ever smaller slice of the pie while continuing to destroy our children's future. On top of that, there's the growing reality of climate change, which threatens to destroy everything the human race has achieved. And whilst I'm sure that every journalist in this room is exemplary in character and thoughtfulness, it must be admitted that en masse, our media seems incapable of discussing solutions, happy only to play to our most immediate fears, to do their bit in dividing us in the service of selling advertising. I quite like the William Burroughs quote. After one look at this planet, any visitor from outer space would say, I want to see the manager. So, I thought I'd start today's proceedings on a happy, high note, get you all excited. It is very easy to feel despondent when we look at all that. But for some individuals, that roll call of bad news, not helped by the fact, as far as the media is concerned, it's the only news, isn't a cause for despair. It's a call to arms. It's a rallying cry. It's a reason not to be depressed about the future, but to fix it. And these are the people who take Thomas Edison's advice to heart when he said, there's a way to do it better. Find it. At the Atlas of the Future, we spend our days hunting out people who have done just that, found a better way, and sharing their lessons. The Atlas is a beautiful thing. It's a compendium of people who are already fixing the future today. And behind me, you can see just a fraction of the stories that we've covered. At over 500 projects and counting, the Atlas highlights those who, despite the resistance of a very well-funded status quo, are putting brave and alternative futures on the table, new ways of organizing ourselves to address the grand challenges of our age. It features innovators who are reshaping our education systems, exploring new forms of government, reforming the world of healthcare and medicine, rebooting cities, changing the way we think about how we produce our energy and food. We at the Atlas believe that they offer us both a window and a roadmap to a better future. These brilliant people are changing the culture of the future, shifting us away from this seemingly inevitable dystopia to a world of the possible. Eleanor Roosevelt said, the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. And for our event today, we've brought together some of the Atlas's favorite future fixers and dreamers. They've not only dreamt beautiful things, but they've gone and made them. Innovators in the fields of economics, public trust, food production, community building, water and energy. And we really can't wait to introduce them to you. You're in for a treat. Before we do that, I just want to tell you a story that's one of my favorites on the Atlas, and actually it's a story you can find in my second book, and it's the story of a man called Peter Dearman. who may have saved the world twice with a can of antifreeze. So Peter worked out how to make his lawnmower run on liquid air. Now, an engine that runs on air might sound like a strange concept, but actually, liquid air will turn into an expanding gas, just as the expanding gas of petrol will drive a car engine. So you just put it in a tank, you let it off, it will expand, and it can drive a piston. The problem with liquid air is that it's always lacked oomph. It doesn't have enough power to compete with, say, an internal combustion engine. But Peter worked out how he could boost the efficiency of liquid air engines using a can of antifreeze, and you can read about his trick on the atlas and in the book. So suddenly this engine running on air could do useful work. In fact, it could do so much useful work, he moved on from his lawnmower and decided to convert his car to run on liquid air, which got a few people's attention, including some people with some money. But even still, it still couldn't compete power-wise with a petrol engine. So Peter and his new investor friends were sort of scratching their heads, thinking, what can we use this for? And then they had a eureka moment. Because liquid air is minus 195 degrees centigrade. So Peter's engine doesn't just deliver power, it delivers refrigeration for free. In my introduction, I mentioned that as much as 50% of the food we produce doesn't reach the human stomach because we don't have enough fridges. Peter Dearman, in his shed, invented a completely non-toxic way to refrigerate food with a technology that can be deployed anywhere in the world. No pollution, no fossil fuels, and the potential to save millions from hunger. And it also turns out we can now use liquid air because of his innovation as a battery, a completely non-toxic battery, which will help us move to renewables. And now there are two companies, large companies growing in the UK right now, taking Peter's ideas to the world. That's a man in a shed with a can of antifreeze. We've learned at the Atlas that time and time again, innovation comes from the most unlikely of places. We're convinced that the future no longer has to happen to us, but we can happen to it. It's our firm belief at the Atlas that the future needs to be democratized to include all of us. We believe that the more diverse the people involved in making the future better, the better that future will be. And so we often find, time and time again in our work, that it's the outsiders, the mavericks, the marginalized that deliver the biggest and the best innovations. And we're going to introduce you to a roll call of them today. All were successful, all were told what they imagined couldn't be done, and all of them went and did it anyway. Before we get going, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the schedule for the day. So we split the day into three sections, one on economics and trust, one on water and energy, and one on food. And for each of those sections, we'll invite our Atlas heroes up here to give a short talk about their work, and then we'll get into discussion with them and with you. So if you want to ask a question, we'll be taking those during the discussion part, or you can tweet your questions using the hashtag #FixingTheFuture, and those will be brought up to the stage. And you can ask those questions in English or Catalan. Over today, we're going to bring you innovations from 3 continents, from beneath the city streets of London to the Australian outback, from the villages of Ghana to Barcelona itself. And at the end of the day, you can have a drink with all of these amazing people too. Barcelona is a magical city. It's a city of the possible. It's no surprise to me that the Atlas of the Future is based here, and we are also delighted to be guests of the CCCB, one of the world's leading cultural institutions dedicated to expanding our minds and our hearts. At this point, I feel I really must mention the amazing team behind today's event, Kathy, Lisa, and Paula from the Atlas, who are responsible for creating this wonderful show you have today. So I'd like to give them a round of applause, please. And I'd also like to mention the fabulous support we get from our Barcelona-based advisors, Silva, who you saw on stage, and Vicente and Mariona as well. So to conclude my little section, I talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly a lot in my work. So the bad news is that everything is broken. The good news is we can fix it. And the ugly news is it's going to get really messy. The next 15 years are going to be very, very messy indeed as the old, hierarchical, centralized power structure fails under the weight of the challenges it has proved itself incapable of addressing. How messy it gets depends on how prepared we are to embrace the possible. Change is coming, and we all know it. Our challenges are real and immediate, but the solutions to them are also real, and they're here with us, and some of them are in this room today. There is an old Chinese proverb: when the winds of change blow, some people build walls, some people build windmills. And today is about the windmills. Thank you very much.